Hello, this is Mr. Conley. Now, before I start, because we're doing this as a live lesson, the first thing I want you to do is to make sure that you have muted your microphone and muted your camera. Okay, so make sure you click on these icons and make sure you've muted them. Now, do not use the chat in the channel unless asked to, and only raise your hand if you need help or are asked to. Okay, so what we're going on to do today, Year 7, is we're going on to do some graphic design work. Specifically, we're going to be creating a Valentine's Day menu. Now, not in this lesson, but in the lessons coming up, we're actually going to be using a new piece of software. Okay, the software is actually called Photoshop, but the online version we're going to be using is called Photop. So if you want to have a bit of an explore before we get to it, okay, you can have a little Google and you can have a go of that, but that's what we're going to be going on to have a look at. Okay, so before we start, you will need to record notes as we go through the lesson. You must upload your notes at the end of the lesson. You can write your notes on paper and then take a photo of them at the end of the lesson. You will need to upload this photo to Teams. You can, if you wish, record your notes digitally, either using a word processor or presentation software such as PowerPoint. You will then need to save your work and you will need to upload the digital files to Teams at the end of the lesson. Now, these documents that you create today will be important when you create the menu on the computer. Now, it's really important that you do upload these pieces of work because it's my evidence or your evidence that you've completed some of the work in today's lesson. So can you just make sure you do that at the end? Okay, so our key objective today is to develop a house style for a Valentine's Day menu. Okay, our core outcomes are to use a mind map to plan the design of a Valentine's Day menu. We're going to use a mood board to plan the appearance of a Valentine's Day menu. We're going to develop a house style for your product, so we're going to decide on the font style, the colour scheme, the imagery and the logos you're going to use on your menu. Okay, now the purpose of the skills you're learning today is to be able to design a house style, a brand for your product, and to be able to develop a vector logo to be placed on your final design. Okay, so before we actually start to plan what our product's going to look like, we need to know what the client, okay, and the client in this case is the restaurant, is asking us to create. So what I want you to do is I want you to read through the following brief very carefully. So just pause the video and have a quick read through it now. Okay, so hopefully now you've read through the brief. Okay, you've known that Carluccio's restaurant wants you to create a Valentine's Day menu. Okay, we're going to create a mind map today and we're going to create a mood board. Okay, and we'll get on to what they are in a second. So our first task, what we're going to create is a mind map. Now the mind map is a tool to allow you to generate ideas of what your design will look like. You should include a center node. You should include nodes, which are these bubbles coming off our center node, and you should also include subnodes, which is the text we've got around our nodes. And we join our nodes together using these lines or these arrows, which you might find in some case, which are called branches, think like a tree. Now, using the client brief that we've just gone through, you need to create a mind map to plan out what your Valentine's Day menu will look like. Okay, so you should add a center node. Okay, this is just an example, okay, so don't expect yours to look like a smoking fire. You're creating a Valentine's Day menu. Okay, you should include what the client's asking you to do. Think about what we just looked through on the last slide. You should talk about who's your audience, who's going to be going to the restaurant, who you design your product for. And you want to talk about your design ideas. What colours do you think of when you think of Valentine's Day? What colours do you think a Valentine's menu should have? What images do you think of when you think of Valentine's Day? What font styles will you use? Okay, now I'll leave this up as an example so you can see how to set it out. Okay, but remember you're creating your mind map for a Valentine's Day menu. So can you just pause the video now and complete the task? Okay, hopefully you've completed the mind map task now. The next task that you're going on to do is to create a mood board. Now, a mind map is for generating ideas using text. A mood board is for generating ideas using imagery. Okay, now to do this task, if you have a computer, what I recommend you do is to create a new slide on PowerPoint, and also you're going to need to have Google Images open in a browser, and you're going to use the search engine to collect some images, and you're going to copy and paste them into your PowerPoint slide. If you're doing this on paper, okay, what I suggest you do is have Google Image Search opened up on your phone, and then on your piece of paper, I don't expect you to draw the images, but list potential images and text that you wish to source. So you're writing down the images that you would include on your mood board in your final design. You can still research these through Google on your phone. Okay, so what you need to look for, the images you need to include. Existing menus. Look specifically for how the content on the poster is laid out, so how the titles, the text, the images are laid out. Images of food that would be appropriate, so not bangers and mash. Images linked to Valentine's. Okay, so think of what images do you think of when you think of love? Think of Valentine's Day, Cupid maybe. Okay, colour schemes that are linked to Valentine's. Fonts that work for Valentine's, so the text style. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now, I'll leave this up on the screen. I just want you to pause it. Okay, and I would like you to create a mind map. But remember, you're not creating it for smoking, you're creating your mood board. Sorry, not mind map, you're creating your mood board, okay, for a Valentine's Day menu. So I want to see images linked to Valentine's Day and linked to menus. Okay, pause the video, have a go at that task now. Okay, this next task is an extension task. So you can round off the first lesson with a house style document. This is a list of the elements that create the house style. What fonts are you using and why? What colour scheme are you using and why? What might the logo look like for the restaurant? Consider this an enrichment activity where you can impress using websites like Vector, okay, or uidraw.com. We've used both of those websites in class, okay, and you can use that website to create a logo for Carluccio's restaurant. If you're not sure about the spelling, go back to the client brief again. Okay, so just pause the video while you complete that task. Okay, so the final task is to upload your work to Microsoft Teams. Okay, you'll need to upload the following documents to Teams. If you've completed your documents on paper, take a picture and upload it to Teams. If you've completed your tasks on the computer, you'll need to upload the digital files to Teams. Things to upload: the mind map, the mood board, and if you've completed the extension task, you need to upload that as well. Okay, hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. I will see you next week. Goodbye.